They feel depressed. They feel, if you're listening and you've ever thought of any of these things, you maybe feel depressed. You maybe feel like you're not doing enough. You maybe feel like you are in the wrong job role. You maybe feel like you don't have enough time in the day. It could be because your values are not aligned with what you're doing in life or who you are being in your life right now.
If you've ever felt like the life you're living doesn't fully reflect the values you hold, or if you're wondering how to turn your deep desire to serve others into sustainable, fulfilling work, this episode is for you. Today I'm joined by Daphne Valcin, whose journey from community outreach to coaching high-impact leaders is rooted in a lifelong passion for helping other people thrive. We talk about how to create a personal mission statement that actually guides your decisions, how to measure success in ways that go beyond metrics, and how your values can strengthen not just your purpose, but your relationships too. You're going to come away from this conversation feeling grounded, inspired, and ready to reconnect with what matters most. Stay tuned. This is Fulfilling Work, Meaningful Life, the show that helps you find and create greater meaning in the most important aspects of life. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Fulfilling Work, Meaningful Life. I'm your host, Anthony Kraker, and I am joined today by Daphne Valcin, an executive coach, and I'm really excited for this opportunity to talk to you today. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Anthony.
Absolutely. So let's just jump right in. Tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to where you are now.
Sure. So currently, I'm a CEO of Valcin Strategic Solutions. I have had my business for about 11 years now, and I've served over 400 individual leadership development clients. And I've also been honored to train over 200 organizations when it comes to high potential leaders or leaders within the organization in general, increasing their influence and their impact up, down, and across organizations, especially when it comes to conflict and collaboration and connection. So what led me to this spot? Anyone who knew me, even back in the 90s, would say that I'm someone who really is passionate about people being good to one another and me figuring out how I can change the world. So, me being in this role, doing executive coaching, consulting, training, for me it's a pivotal season in my life where I'm bringing together the person who people knew me to be back when I was little Daphne. I'm still little, but when I was little Daphne, I'm 5'2", all the way up to now as a professional who's really committed in my daily life to serving. But my background before being an entrepreneur was in education, managing programs, doing community outreach, director of community outreach in one instance, and public relations. So doing public affairs and other things like that within my career.
So you've had a wide array of experience in your career. How did you develop that passion for wanting to change the world and make an impact? What's the root of that?
Yeah, there's so many. So one of the roots is the neighborhood that I was raised in was going through a number of different changes. So our neighborhood used to be a very safe and quiet neighborhood. And then we had an influx of gangs and drugs and gang violence.
Mhm.
And I had the opportunity to meet some of the people who were causing trouble in the library because my parents let me be at the library by myself after school. So the gang members came in to cause trouble.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and those individuals, I got a chance to know them because I was a nerd. Still am a nerd, but I was a real nerdy nerd. And I was like, I could watch your little brother for you because they would be going outside and doing stuff, and I'd be coloring with these kids in the library. So I had the opportunity to see these individuals and how they acted when they weren't trying to be tough and they weren't trying to push back and be rude and all those kinds of things. I saw them like just talking and interacting with their family members and all that kind of stuff. So the one thing that came from that was me realizing that sometimes what people are showing is not the fullest version of themselves and they can do better. And it led me to think about what causes individuals to not do the things that they need to do in order to thrive. So that's where the education piece, like the public affairs, working
Mhm.
for an ed policy organization, I'm like, we need to figure out how to be able to support everyone to be their best, every child to be their best, in addition to, just people in general. So you'll see if you looked at my background, a lot of volunteerism too. I had a nonprofit, gave out tens of thousands of scholarships based on those experiences. The other piece for me came from seeing my mother. So my two parents are both Haitian immigrants.
Okay.
So my mother, when people used to come to our house in the morning to walk to school, she would stop them and be like, "So, what do you want to do when you grow up? Okay. So, what kind of education you need for that? You don't know? I think you need to take this exam, but you have to study. You can do it. Believe in yourself." So my mom was really encouraging to everyone. These were just kids, middle schoolers, high schoolers trying to get to school. And
Yeah.
she's like, "But what do you want to do with your life?" So let's talk. So she was the first coach that I saw, being able to see something 10 years from what was in front of her when it came to these young people, many of which went on to do great things. And she herself came to America, didn't speak English at 19, got her GED, got her bachelor's degree at the age of 40, and
Wow.
was a registered nurse for many years. And so she's also an example of possibility that I also look to.
What a wonderful story. That's awesome. So I guess she was asking you those questions as well as you were growing up?
Yeah, so I was the kid who was in a whole bunch of extracurricular activities, and my mom encouraged me to keep talking to her even as I was a teenager, and she was like, "Daphne," that's how you say my name in Creole, "come talk to me." And I'm like, What happened? What do you need?" "Just talk to me. What's going on?" And I'm like, "Nothing. What's going on with your friend?" "She's this, she's that, da, 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 and then this happened, and this, and this, and this, and then, da, 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 da," and I would talk. So something that I'm really good at as a coach, my clients tell me, is asking questions.
Mhm.
So I'm like, "So tell me a little bit more about that. So when you shared this, what did you mean by that? So where are the opportunities that exist within this versus that?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that. So what are your thoughts about what you need to do next in order to make that happen?" The question asking also probably comes from my mom. Lots and lots of questions. But I realize now that back then she was trying to form a relationship and also make sure that she was very involved in what it is that me and my brother were experiencing to be able to influence us moving forward.
Yeah, that's really great. I love hearing stories like that. So let's talk a little bit about kind of what you do. I know one of the things that you talk about is developing a personal mission statement. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that process. What if somebody's going to put together a mission statement? Where do they start, and what does that entail?
Sure. And I think even before getting into the mission statement process, someone has to think about what is it that you want to do in the
Hmm.
world, which would lead them to probably thinking about who is it that you want to be in the world, which probably has them go back to a whole bunch of, things about their past and their purpose, right? But I noticed, especially in 2020, when people had the chance to just be still, a lot of people decided that they wanted to do something different with either the way that they were in whatever it is that they were continuing to do, or what it is they wanted to be in life in general. So, a mission statement can help with that. One of the things that people could start with is, what are their values? And there are a number of different tools online that allow you to think about what are all of your values, your top values. So, for you, is it that you value freedom? Do you value fun or connection, community, love, family, friendship, culture? So think through, what are your values, think what are your top values, and then think about, what is it that you want to do in the world no matter what your position is. So for me, I want to tap into the potential of people and their ideas.
Hmm.
That's the through line in every single thing that I've done in my career from the time that I started working. It's tapping into the potential of people or and their ideas. So for you, is it that you want to be a servant leader wherever you go? One of my clients said that he wants his life to be like a well. And I was like, "Ooh, tell me more." So it's flowing. So whatever it is that he is gaining, whenever it is that he is moving forward, he would like others to gain, to learn, to move forward, to develop. So he most likely is going to be doing positions that involve other people and him being able to influence other people around him regularly. So for you, you can say, "I use my values of X, Y, and Z in order to ensure that I am ABC, which is the what it is that you want to do. So for me, it might be I use my values of inspiration, excellence, and joy in order to tap into the potential of people and their ideas to create communities, departments, companies that thrive.
Okay.
Do something like that, right? So, and then once you have that mission, you got to keep it in front of you. So maybe that is an index card folded on your desk. Maybe it's a pop up every once in a while on a calendar invite. Maybe it's on a vision board somewhere. But it's helpful to have that in front of you so that when things come up, decisions, opportunities that aren't aligned with that, then you know that this is not the opportunity. This is not the decision. This is not the friendship or mentor for you.
Yeah, that makes sense that you'd need to go back to that statement over and over again because we forget pretty easily, right? And we lose sight of what's most important. So that kind of constant reminder would seem to be really important in that process of living one's mission. What about measuring success? If we think about a personal mission statement, it's kind of a broader idea of what we want to achieve in life. In this day of metrics and data, right? Everybody's interested in measuring progress. What do you recommend as far as how to measure success against the backdrop of a well developed mission statement?
So, for those who are planners like me and who like to measure, so every single year in the holiday season, I do a 3-year strategic plan. And this strategic plan touches on the top goals that I have for my business, different aspects of my business,
Hmm.
but it also integrates some things that are really important for life as well. I also have this thing in my calendar that my client said I need to talk about more that I shared with him and that he had me share at a conference. But I have this time in my calendar. I call it my weekly wisdom and peace seeking time. So
Okay.
so that's on a personal level. So what that is it has for me who are the top 3 people that I need to keep in touch with on a regular basis. It could be professionally or personally. For me it's a mix. And then I have within that, what are the top goals I have on a daily basis, a weekly basis, monthly, and quarterly basis for the year?
Okay.
So those goals could be making sure that I am at least 90% present with my children. So what I mean by that is I'm not thinking about doing the laundry, work, email that needs to be sent, new project, new idea when my children are like, "Can we play with the ball?" I have two children, a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. I would like to be completely present with them, but at least 90%, not on my phone, not doing chores when I'm talking to them all the time, but to really give them 90% at least presence, like almost all my presence. I
Yeah.
have in there, what is my signature voice? So these are like, what are my values? How do I want to show up all the time? And it's inspiring, energized, and guide, basically. So checking every week to be like, am I doing that daily? There is have at least one fun conversation with a friend per week is on there because I know how to work. Okay. My parents taught me how to work.
Yeah.
But I don't always know how to rest. So I'm like, what? Schedule at least one fun conversation. Do something for yourself is on there weekly. It says what those things are, like make some tea for yourself, or get your nails done, or go on a walk, or dance just randomly in the house. That is on there. So I even have metrics for my personal life, basically. There's even a sleep goal. So go to sleep before a certain time, at least 70% of the week, or something like that is
Hmm.
on there as well. So I literally go through and skim that. And then I have monthly different things that I want to hit. Do a staycation by myself for one day, do a staycation with my husband for one day in a specific month, sew the clothes that need to be sewed in my closet for 1 month. So I have on a personal level, what are some things that I'm doing? And I literally like highlight those things that I've done. I bold them to
Hmm.
show that I've done them on a monthly basis. And then I have the 3-year strategic plan for my business. The way that that works for me, I created a goals section that says like time management. This is how many hours max that I want to work per week. This is how many hours max I want to work in the evening. Marketing. These are how many posts that I want to put up this frequently. Revenue. This is how much that I want to make each quarter. These are how many kinds of clients that I want to close. And then I have in my mind, what is the number one goal out of everything on this multiple page document? What's the number one thing that I want to accomplish? Because that document is probably like 16 pages or something.
Oh, wow.
What's the number one thing? And I do it every single year. I update it. What's the number one thing? Which usually is around revenue. And I think this year is probably revenue, and then a sub close goal. Close second is time management in my business because of my children. I want to make sure that I'm managing my time appropriately.
Sure. So
So that's how I do it.
you dig pretty deeply into the metrics then. Do you recommend that for everyone, or does it vary based on personality?
So, that's such a good question, Anthony. So, Anthony, let me tell you about something that I think is really helpful called the Kobe assessment. Have you heard of it, the Kobe index?
No, I haven't heard of that.
So, a few of the programs that I've been in to grow my business have touched on this, but this is helpful for anybody, career professional or business owner, to think through where you are in the Kobe index. There are four different categories in the Kobe index. I'm going to talk about three that I think are important to our conversation.
Mhm.
One is fact finder, one is follow through, one is quick start, and the fourth is more like spatial understanding. So let's just talk about these three. So with the first one, fact finder, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's how often do you find that when someone tells you about a project, for example, I want to launch a podcast, right? If they say that, the person who is a high fact finder is like, but first, I need to research. What are best practices associated with having a podcast? What does the length of time look like for a good podcast? What is the ROI for having a podcast? What are best practices with finding sponsors? How do I monetize? How long do I want to do this podcast? Do I want to keep it going for at least 5 years? All those questions. That's a fact finder, people who rate high on the fact finder.
Okay.
So then there's the follow through people. They create action plans, such as my 3 year strategic planning document. So they're like, you can tell me, hey, Daphne, I want to host a podcast in London and I want to do it next month. This a boss actually told me this for real. He was like, I want to have an interview in London and I want to do it next month. And I want to have college to be one of the people who interview me about this project. And I was like, got it. So that person was like, I'm gonna create the plan. I'm also gonna follow through and make phone calls and do what I need to do. So I was able to arrange that for him, no problem. That was when I was director of community mobilization. So I don't need a lot of details to create plans, right?
Mhm.
And then there's quick start. A quick start says, I want to create a podcast. The next episode is launching next week. They'll hop right in. So I have been, not to say one style is better than the other because all are needed. I'm a 7, 8, 2, and I think 4 for the last one. So or maybe it's actually 8, 9, 2. So 8, I'm a high fact finder, right?
Mhm.
So what I've forced myself to do is, even though I'm a 2 in quick start, I do quick start stuff. So I'm like, true story, had my business, let me see, quit my job because I was getting married and moving to another state, or else I would have kept it while I was launching my business. But I quit my job on the Friday. And on that Monday, I did my EIN, I did my website, I had my bank account. And that same week, I was putting out there social media posts for new clients. So that is not how I naturally would operate,
Okay.
but I quit my job.
Yeah. So it's kind of a necessity that you did
Yeah,
that.
I'm like, this website is gonna be what the website is, even though I created it in a day, and we're gonna keep it moving. So, but I've noticed that some of my colleagues who are more quick start in business can tend to get contracts sooner and bigger contracts because they're like, I have no idea how to do this. For some people, I have no idea how to do this, but I'll figure it out. So I'm gonna create this proposal and I'm gonna send out a bid, or I'm gonna try to get this client, or I'm gonna say yes to this opportunity, or I'm gonna reach out to the president of this foundation for this opportunity. And again, this translates to career professionals too. I'm going to ask my boss for a promotion. I don't have a 10-page proposal for why I deserve it, but I do deserve it. And so I'm going to get this together. I have the opportunity to meet with senior VP tomorrow. I don't know him. He's 5 levels above me. I'm going to have a conversation. That's quick start. That's quick start kind of action.
Mhm.
So all that to say, for those who feel like they're quick starts, they're probably not going to want to do a 3-year strategic plan for their business, but they might be fine anyway because they're like, I'm going to make a whole bunch of money. I'm going to hit 7 figures. They might not know how, but they'll take advantage of every opportunity and maybe be in the room where they need to be in order to do that. Whereas for me, I'm just like, if I want to make seven figures, who else has made seven figures? And what are they doing? And let me check out their best practices. And I might want
Hmm.
to also sign up for a program to help me figure out how to make seven figures. And am I there yet? Because maybe I should do it in steps and make this much and then make this much and then make that much. Right? I'll be able to create the plan. I'm going to do research. My business is a six-figure business, which is great. But I think my business is a six-figure business because I do quick start stuff, even though it's not my comfort zone, based on my values, going back to our values and our mission.
Hmm.
Now, a big part of my mission is being a great mother for my children and being a great contributor to my household. I'm married as well. So, just so that trumps or that is better for me, is greater than any fear that I have for doing something. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this because this is going to be able to support this thing. And because I've been practicing quick start behavior in the past 11 years, I'm also great at helping others to be able to do more quick start stuff. They're like, I'm not ready. I think I deserve a promotion. And I'm like, you know what? You just told me this, and this about your experience. What do you think is stopping you from being able to ask?
Yeah.
Go ahead and ask. Do the podcast. Whatever it is you try to do. So all that to say, it depends on the person. If you're a person though that without structure, you're not gonna do whatever you need to do, you probably do need some additional structure,
Hmm.
or at least specific goals and metrics or an accountability partner to be able to move forward as well.
Very interesting. That index sounds similar in some ways to the disc profile. Are you familiar with the disc profile? So it sounds like there's some similarities there between the two. Stepping back for a moment and looking at this at more of a higher level, how does this process of developing a personal mission statement and thinking through our values contribute to creating a meaningful life?
Mm. Good question, Anthony. Mm. So I think that one of the reasons why it contributes is because sometimes the life that people are living is not aligned with their values or their mission.
Hmm.
So they feel depressed. They feel, if you're listening and you've ever thought of any of these things, you maybe feel depressed. You maybe feel like you're not doing enough. You maybe feel like you are in the wrong job role. You maybe feel like you don't have enough time in the day. It could be because your values are not aligned with what you're doing in life or who you are being in your life right now. If you know, like for me, like you noticed, Anthony, already, I have a heart for service. I need to be doing some community service here and there.
Yeah.
It feeds my soul. So today, for example, I'm going to be going with my children to a community service activity with small children. I'm tutoring them. And that takes patience. That takes for me to practice that being present with them. But that's a big value of mine is service.
Yeah.
So for you, maybe the value might be thrill, right? So maybe you need to go take yourself on a roller coaster ride every so often or run a marathon. Those who are running 5Ks and all, you need to run a marathon. Do something that is really create a go kart. Do I think it's called off roading? Somebody told me about. Do
Hmm.
some off roading. What? Go to an off roading show. Like you might need to feed that a little bit, and of course, a safe way. For some, it's travel. They may need to travel a little bit more. And I'm living in the United States. I live right outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and Austell, Georgia. And sometimes travel, you don't even, for those who may not have the money or the time, you don't even have to go far. 2 hours away, we have lots of mountains, parks, lakes, rivers that are really absolutely beautiful. So, figuring out for that person who maybe loves travel, how can you do that in a way that fits your current capacity? You work 80 hours a week, you feel really worn out, but you love travel. Maybe you take your PTOs every so often, your pay time off, and then you go travel somewhere as opposed to maybe sleeping in and catching up. So figuring out what your values are allows you to feel on a regular basis like your life is so meaningful, so full, so purposeful if you're able to go back to those values.
Love it. Love it. Really good thoughts there. Do you have maybe a success story or an example that you could share of somebody that you've worked with in your coaching practice that has kind of gone through this process and gotten to where they want to be?
Yeah, this is a great question. I will share a story of someone who has done something like that. So, with this specific client, they were working in one kind of organization, a nonprofit, where they were in a senior level position. They were doing great work. They were accomplishing amazing things. But they felt like they wanted to make more money, but that they also wanted to continue being able to make a difference in the world. And they were trying to figure out what that could look like. So we were able to develop a plan to think about what are any roles that they might pursue that are service driven, but that still are in the corporate world. And so we found like a really, really great role that she could take and that she was able to negotiate and have exactly the salary that she wanted. But when she was in that role, there was still a missing piece, right? So there was a something that she had wanted to do, a certification that she had wanted to get for years and years and years. And her friends had said, "You don't need to get that. What are you going to do with that?" It has little to do with her job directly, but it would be able to impact her job indirectly. Let's just say this is not what it was, but just for, for to keep her persona private. Let's
Sure.
say it was a therapy certification, right? For her to be a therapist. So she started that certification process and it was life changing for her. It shifted the way that she was able to see the world. She knew that this was something that would be not just great for a career, but would be great for her personally. And in the process, she also realized that she needed to think about her friendships, her circles within her role, the people at work as well as the people personally who she was around, to really identify if there was alignment in her values and their values.
Mm.
So we went from thinking about like what does a great role look like to what does a great life look like for you even as you're in this role where you're making the money that you want to make, and then also applying her own personal values to how she addressed her boss and her colleagues at work in her interactions. What was within her realm of control, what wasn't within her realm of control, how did she want to apply what she was learning in the certification to her job doing the thing that she was doing to be able to bring in that revenue. And she used the additional revenue also to give back. So giving back was a big part of who she was since the beginning of us working together. So she was able to be a philanthropist and give back in a lot of different ways financially to causes that she believed in. So her life was completely different as we went through the coaching process together.
Can personal mission statements change over time depending on life circumstances? And, do you see that a lot as you work with people who are high achieving and high performing? Maybe they enter a new stage in their lives, empty nest stage or whatever it is. Do you see that personal mission statement change? And how does somebody work through that process?
Yeah, I do see that personal mission statement change. I think of even some of the higher level leaders that I've worked with when they first got in their role, what their perspectives were about how they wanted to approach their role. And then eventually, years later, how they wanted to approach that work in a different way. I think that even in my case, for example, prior to becoming an entrepreneur, I feel like I was doing work in my full time job, which was really, really great. And then I was also at night a big like social change agent. So raising money for causes, out
Hmm.
volunteering, networking with young professionals, but usually around causes that I believed in. Then I had a family. So, the after work time, I'm an after school mom now. I do after school homework. I cook dinner for the family. It's changed. So, even though I would say most would argue I'm still the same at my core in terms of what I believe and the work that I'm doing in the community, it also looks very different. And I have a different way that I approach my work. Many professionals that I've worked with are like me in that when I first started my career, at least people who are attracted to my coaching, I was super ambitious and worked around the clock. And I didn't mind. So my boss could be like, Daphne, I have an idea. Are you available tonight around 10 p.m.? And I'd be like, sure I am. True story. Sure
Wow.
I am. Let's talk about this idea. Yeah. And then I could work anytime you wanted me to. And I was also going to do extra credit work. So you want me to share some thoughts? I'm going to create a presentation for our whole team. Like, whatever it was, I was taking it above and beyond. You want me to do it in 5 days? I'm gonna do it in 3 days. Was how I approached work. Now, I'm like, "Okay, Daphne, what can we move around in our schedule to make sure that we're balanced? How can we make sure that we're maintaining boundaries? We're still changing the world. However, we are doing it differently." So one of the things that's on my mind every day is making sure that I am managing my time effectively, doing the things that are most important, and being very present for my children. So that wasn't a thought that I had before. And even before kids and family, I was
Yeah.
already starting to think maybe I shouldn't be meeting at 10 p.m. Yeah. So I've seen that in myself. And for many of the clients I serve, I find that especially boundaries and honing in on what's most important, no matter what life stage they're in, as they progress within their careers, seems to be a standard.
Love it. Well, I could probably talk to you for hours, but we don't have that much time. So I've really enjoyed getting to know you and learning from you. And I think you bring a lot of value to our listeners. So thank you for coming on the show today. How can our listeners connect with you? And if they want to learn more about what you do, where do they go?
Sure. So they can connect with me at either my name.com, so daphnevalcin.com. It'll take you to valcinstrategicsolutions.com. Just in case you forget about Valcin Strategic Solutions, you could just look up my name.com or LinkedIn. I'm there on LinkedIn with my name as well. You can find me on Instagram if that's your preference, but you'll also find some pictures of my children on there too, but you may want to see that too. So Instagram, LinkedIn, or my website are some of the best places to find me.
Great. And we will put all of that in the show notes so our listeners can find you if they want to. So as we wrap up here, any parting words of wisdom you'd like to share with the audience?
Sure. Something that I was thinking about, and I was like, oh man, I wish I would have shared this, is your values don't only impact who you are in your relationship with the world, but it also impacts your relationships at work. When you can operate in values that are really aligned with who you are when you're your best self, in my opinion, that can also decrease conflict, that can create more connection with you, your managers, your direct reports, your colleagues, or in your personal life, it could create more connection with you and your loved ones too. Just remembering your values and remembering that they also apply to how you're engaging with others and how you want to show up in the world. My hopes are that anyone who's listening does have fulfilling work and a meaningful life, as Anthony's podcast is named as well. But thank you so much, Anthony, for this podcast.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. Please remember to check out my website, fulfillingworkmeaningfullife.com, to sign up for my monthly newsletter, Meaningful Insights. When you do, I'll send you a free digital resource that will help you find or create a fulfilling career. Until next time, let's make it a meaningful week.